For Lamar Jackson, being one of the league's best dual threat quarterbacks isn't without its flaws. From feeling like you don't get enough credit for your arm talent, to being hounded by randoms on Twitter saying you're really just a glorified running back. But after years of leading one of the league's most prolific rushing attacks, Jackson may finally have a chance to showcase his passing skills under new offensive coordinator Todd Monken, who brings to Baltimore a wide-open, pass-happy scheme from his time at Georgia. One area of focus for this revamped offense is Jackson's desire to target defenses with deeper passes more often. But how good is he actually at throwing these deep balls? Looking at the numbers, not very. This past season, out of 36 qualifying quarterbacks, Jackson ranked 32nd in completion percentage on balls thrown 20 or more yards. Though, to be fair, Jackson throughout his career hasn't shied away from calling these deep passes a work in progress. But the data would suggest it's a bit more of an exercise in regression. Zooming out, he's been on a steady downward trajectory since his MVP season in 2019. If I had to boil down Jackson's deep ball problems to one singular issue, it would be that of an inconsistent touch. Passes just hang on him a little too often. For example, here's a beautiful ball he throws on a go route against Cleveland in Week 7. The Browns come out showing a blitz from the outside linebacker with one deep safety and a cornerback on an island in man coverage on the outside. While the safety is on the side of the field with the receiver, his shoulders are turned toward the middle of the field, and once Jackson snaps the ball and sees him continue cheating over to the other side, you can see his eyes lock onto his lone receiver. He sets, launches, and the ball soars through the air, coming down with a nice arc to drop right over top of the defender and into the receiver's bucket. Gorgeous. Now compare what we just saw to this throw against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the next week off a very similar looking sequence. While the pass before better resembled a 3-point shot in basketball, this one looks more like a line drive that's destined to slam off the backboard. Granted, the receiver is much better covered here than they were against Cleveland, but his passes fly above guys when they're open too. Check out this play against the Bills in the red zone. Buffalo has two deep safeties and appears to be playing a cover 2 concept. Watch how Mark Andrews and Devin Duvernay's routes work in tandem here to bait the corner inside and pull the safety out to the middle to clear space in the deep right area of the end zone. Andrews gets open behind his man on the double move, but even with all of this area open, Jackson's pass hangs in the air and sails over him. Throughout his time as a starter, Jackson has always been more efficient on deep passes to the middle of the field than he has on these sideline throws. In 2019, 10 of his 12 deep pass touchdowns came from this section of the field. This past season, this was still the same story, albeit on a much smaller scale with an injury also limiting his attempts, with 3 out of 5 of his deep touchdowns coming from here. In my review, I noticed that he liked hitting a skinny post route into the soft spots of coverage. One example came against Carolina in Week 11. Baltimore comes out in an empty set with 5 receivers, while the Panthers have 2 deep safeties and will play quarters coverage at the snap, with the corners and safeties protecting different fourths of the field deep and the backers protecting the intermediate part in thirds. Take a look at what happens between this triangle of defenders. The slot receiver goes for a quick out against a slower defender without any leverage to cover it, and this sets off a chain reaction, baiting the corner to come down shallow to try and help against the easy completion. The only problem with that is, it opens up space for Jalen Moore right behind him. Jackson reads this immediately and rips a ball to Moore before the safety has time to get there. Jackson can also make this type of play when the window is much smaller. Take this example against the Dolphins where, after the play action dust settles, Jackson is left with Andrews in a one-on-one with his body on the inside of his defender. Again, Jackson makes a quick decision to throw it to this matchup and gets it through before the safety can come over and affect the pass or catch. I also saw him regularly make good post-snap reads, something that I don't think gets talked enough about with him. Like here, against Jacksonville, where he and Andrews display both their vision and communication skills. The Jaguars drop one deep safety as Andrews runs his route through the rest of the defense. The corner on his same side stays flat-footed to protect against the shallow routes, which opens up this big space in the field behind him and away from the safety that Andrews' path leads him towards. Rather than execute this play as it was likely drawn up, Jackson throws the pass into the opening of the zone right as Andrews moves into that space. This tells me that Jackson is reading the field and the defense as opposed to watching if his receivers are going to come open. I think you can also see some of this in how he keeps his eyes downfield and finds receivers to throw to even as the pocket breaks down and he starts scrambling in the backfield. Of course, pinpointing these moments leads us back to the first point, a lack of accuracy and touch on these deeper balls. More often than not, Jackson's deep passes on the run felt aimless, and I gotta say, I was surprised to realize this. In my head, Jackson was better at this type of thing. And while it could be that I just haven't watched enough film of him throwing on the run, or I've just been conflating this particular skill with his overall running ability, I assumed this was something he was better at. And I wanted to end the video on this point because I think it's a great encapsulation of how I feel about him overall as a passer. He does some of the more difficult things at a higher level, while his consistency as a literal thrower of the football lags behind. It's why I think Monken is genuinely excited about experimenting with Jackson in a more pass-happy offense. While his touch is inconsistent, it's not like he doesn't have beautiful passes in him, and they don't always have to be schemed up for him either. He can read the field and make real-time adjustments based on what he sees. It's easy to believe that Lamar Jackson, at age 26, with his overall skill and drive, along with some new receiving talent in Odell Beckham Jr. and Zay Flowers, will put it all together in his 5th season as a full-time starter and elevate his deep ball's effectiveness. I think that's where the smart money is at. Then again, I gotta say, when I go back and check out those numbers over the past 4 years again, just a little bit of doubt creeps in. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please remember to give it a like if you did enjoy it, and consider subscribing to Football Doesn't Matter so you can catch the next one. Thanks.